In this episode of the EW podcast, I speak with James Wheeler. James is a San Diego-based entrepreneur and fitness coach. He's the owner of Locomotion Athletics, and in this episode, we talk about his personal path to San Diego and becoming a fitness coach. We talk about the importance of fitness and activity on mental health and just well-being in general. We talk about the role of nutrition in fitness, and we speak about consistency versus intensity, among other topics. The impact that physical activity can have on mental health is certainly not news to anybody, but I definitely took away some good nuggets that have been helping me in my quest to stay physically active from this conversation with James, and I hope that you do too. I think this conversation would be particularly useful for anybody who has been considering joining a gym like CrossFit or Locomotion Athletics and just wants a little more information about what to expect from such a membership. So without further ado, here's my conversation with James Wheeler. So thanks for joining me, James.
Of course, bud. Anytime.
So do you want to just start this off with a little about who you are, what you do?
Sure. Well, first off, I'm a strength and conditioning coach. Been that also human performance, whatever you want to call it that way, or personal trainer. I mean, there's a lot of different names you can call that, but I own a business called Locomotion Athletics, located right outside of Mission Hills here in San Diego. Little backstory on me. I grew up in southern New Jersey. I was there till about I was 21 years old, and then I moved and went to school at East Carolina University to study exercise and sports science. They had a really good program at the time, and just kind of got into the mix there, and was really into sports when I was younger. But I never could be a professional athlete at that point, so I just wanted to be surrounded by athletes. So sports performance was like my passion at that point. And in 2010, I just, whenever I graduated, I just made the leap and wanted to move to San Diego. My brother has been living out here for about 15, 16 years. So I used to come out here and visit. And, once college was done, I was like, I'd accepted an internship out here and just kind of started following my path. Which was really nice, obviously. But,
nice.
Yeah.
So when you came here, what were you? Did you had a job when
Sure.
you initially came here?
Yeah. So I worked for a company called Fitness Quest 10. I interned there for about 7 months. And once I got the position there as a strength coach, I started working primarily with professional athletes in the NFL, Major League Baseball, pretty much as a performance coach. So you are driven to make people perform better physically, mentally, spiritually, all that kind of stuff.
What's like a day-to-day in that?
A day-to-day in that, well, you're going to be up usually at about 5 o'clock in the morning. You're going to stroll in at about 6 a.m., probably, coach a couple general population clients. Those guys in the off season, they probably roll in at about 10 o'clock, get them started. Usually sessions last about an hour and a half, because they're really trying to get in all the things that they need to get prepared. Most of those athletes in the off season usually only have about 2.5 or 3 months. So each week is vital when it comes to that. So at the time when I started, I was only 23 years old. I was pretty young for that position, and I had to grow up really fast, so I had to mature a lot when I was out here in San Diego. Obviously, if you move from the East Coast, you're from Pennsylvania, mm-hmm. You want to indulge in the fun life here and the beach and the vacation. But for the first 3 or 4 years of my being out here, it was like straight business career until I got that experience, at that younger age. But at that time, I did that for about 4 years, and it was like everything that I hoped it to be. But then after about 4.5 or 5 years, I wanted to look for something a little bit different, a little bit more challenging. So after that, I worked for a company called Fitwall, where I started in La Jolla, started managing a studio, learning the business side of fitness, the business side of wellness.
Because at this point, your fitness knowledge is pretty solid.
Sure, like the textbook portion of it you can build through experience, right? And you get that through, what do they say? Every 10 years of experience considers you an expert, or 10,000 hours. And I felt like I got to that point where I was becoming, already with the training expertise, working with different, high school, college, professional, regular population, and all those things. Going into the business side of things was kind of like the next move, and managing a studio in La Jolla and then up in Solana Beach for pretty much a startup company at that point. Fast forward after a couple years, I, came to the realization that I think I wanted to take the ultimate dive and own my own brand, own my own business. And that's where we came up with Locomotion Athletics. And I think since 2016, when we started, it was just a, 4 or 5 person outdoor boot camp, for, in Ski Beach and Pacific Beach, Ski Beach in San Diego, Ski Beach Park. And after that, it just blossomed into what it is today. And now we have about 12,000 to 1,200 square foot studio right in the middle of San Diego, and training, just doing what I love, man. Just, getting everybody in shape and feeling better about themselves, and, making progress 1% at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many people do you have?
Currently at our location, we have about, I would say 65 to 70 clients, depending, and that's a mixture of group training and private training and small group, and stuff like that.
How large are your typical classes?
Our classes, we try to keep a little bit more of an intimate, I like to have a more intimate setting. I think, 16 is the max for our setting, but I would say on average it's about 8 to 10, which I think is a good number. So yeah, 8 to 10 max, but we cap our classes at about 16.
Okay.
So, and we have about 22 class offerings a week. So, yeah.
Nice. And do you want to just run through what is the typical class structure for you guys? What is your approach to that time spent together?
So we, at Locomotion Athletics, we believe in sustainability. We believe in health first, and what I like to call is, functional strength and conditioning. So really what I'm taking my background in sports performance, right? And then gearing that for the quote unquote everyday athlete, right? So everybody either has an athletic past or wants to be an athlete or be more athletic. So really what I'm doing is I'm taking those older traditional strength and conditioning protocols that we would use, say, for a collegiate, high school, or professional athlete, and then modifying them for the everyday person, right? Getting bigger, getting stronger, whatever the goal is, feeling better, joint rehabilitation, trying to get your body just to feel at 100%, right? And so that's really our ultimate goal. And I think, we've had some pretty good success over the last, 2 or 3 years doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the most common goal that someone has when they come to you?
So the common goal, well, we can break this down into male and female.
Yeah,
I think
sure.
that would be good. I think the common goal for most folks is they come in and they just they're like, I want to get in shape. And usually they'll come with numbers like, I want to lose 20 pounds, or I want to lose 10 pounds, or I want to, build mass. Most guys want to build mass. Most women want to lose weight. And a lot of it obviously gets a lot deeper than that. And so what I try to do is when people come in with those goals, I think the first thing to approach is, how do you want to feel? Like, do you want to, ultimately we want to figure out, how do you want to feel moving forward? And with training and exercise, and we'll touch on some of this stuff later, it's very important that you take health first, because if your health isn't there, but you're still trying to reach this aesthetic look, it doesn't really matter. It's not going to be sustainable, right? So everything we do has an approach of sustainability. Can you do this when you're 60, 65 years old down the road, right? So I think the most goal, the average goal that I see for women is usually losing weight, and then also for men, it's putting on size. But for ladies, we pretty much introduce them to the traditional strength and conditioning protocols. And then some guys have a lot of experience with that. So that's what I think makes it fun, because it opens up that, Pandora's box to everything else that maybe they've been missing in their training. So
cool.
Yeah.
And men and women train together with you. So how do you cater to the different needs? Like, I know you mentioned, different people are going to have different goals and maybe different capabilities in the room with different exercises and movements. So how do you approach, that variation in your classes?
We have a system. that we, put together, my business partner, Derek, and I, and pretty much what it is we break down the 6 foundational movement patterns, right? Squat, hinge, okay, or deadlift, lunge, press, pull, and locomotion, right? Hence the name that we have. That could be like carries or running or something like that, moving in free space. Okay. And for the most part, we break down those movements and we can modify them from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 different levels.
Okay.
Right. So if we have an exercise listed on the board, and you can modify or progress that movement either up or down, depending on the person's fitness level. So even for men and women, if men need to lift heavier weights or do something different, they can progress that movement up. And then women, or, even a lot of the ladies we have are really strong too. They're catching up to the guys even at this point. And so that's the way that I think I want my program to be. And I think we've seen the most benefits is something that's scalable to your fitness level. So you can either modify it up or take it down, like whether you're, resting an injury or you have an old injury that, needs some rehabilitation. It's a good way to kind of, progress those things. I think that's our approach when it comes to the program, and then how we can scale it to men and women. Yeah.
Does that take away from the class at all? Like having these different approaches, or is it?
Sure. I know what you're saying. Like, so does it take, like, is it too cumbersome to have like people doing maybe different things all the time? Not necessarily. Sometimes it could be a little bit chaotic at times, but I think with experience that people start to make the turn. We actually offer an introductory personal training package that's about 10 sessions for $350. And so I recommend that if someone like is just coming back or hasn't worked out a really long time or has never worked out in their life, to do a little bit of one-on-one training first. And what we'll do is we'll bring them up to speed. So when they're ready to, hey, I want to do group training, sometimes they even stay with one-on-one training. It kind of just depends on what their needs are. But for the most part, they can get that one-on-one attention before they go into class, so they can feel confident into getting 100% out of each class.
Right.
So I think like that's just kind of taking it slow, and then as a coach and my other coach that's there now, we can kind of figure out where everybody's fitness level is and whether or not they should be like, are they ready to do consistent classes, 4 times a week, or they need to do 1 class a week and then maybe like a private training session. Right.
Nice.
So our goal is to always focus on building you up to where you want to be and where the rest of the class is and all that kind of stuff.
Cool.
So, yeah.
So I guess doubling back to the goals a little bit. You mentioned that losing weight for women and building muscle mass for men are usually the main goals. Are people ever just like, I'm depressed.
Oh yeah, dude, all the time.
Get in there.
Yeah. Well, that's like the aesthetic goals, right? Everybody wants those. You work out because, let's be honest, I want to look good. I want to look good, right? But I think the underappreciated and underrated aspect of training, working out, exercise, movement, whatever you want to call it, is the mental aspect, is the endorphin rush, the dopamine, the, feeling, that soreness in your muscles, it's really kind of hard to describe. And I think, I've been training consistently for about 11 years now, 12 years now.
Okay.
And I think for me, I do it more for my mental state, more so than my physical state. Like the physical attributes are great, but I think over time you fall in love with the process. You fall in love with the discipline. You fall in love with the challenge. Like you're always competing against yourself. And I think that's one of the aspects of training that goes into like the mentality, of an athlete or of anyone that's looking to improve their life is, doing something weekly that they know is going to make them feel better. Right. So, yeah.
Nice. I feel like that's, like you said, an underlying thing that people don't think
very
about,
underrated.
and then they're just like, oh shit, like I feel so good right now. And then, it becomes maybe like a
snowball effect. Absolutely.
You just want to keep chasing that.
So that's where, it goes into that health first mentality, and health is mental health, physical health, right? How your body just feels in general. And I think when you focus on that first, that mindset, everything else comes with it. You know, you're going to get all of this like aesthetic stuff. That's just a side effect of the process and the system in place. So
whenever you were transitioning into being a business owner, did you still make time to work out every day, or was there times where it was just like
it's just a little
couldn't
chaotic?
Get to it?
Yeah, in the first year, when we were outdoor, I would work out a lot, I think, because I was outside, low overhead, very manageable. A lot of physical work with regards to taking out equipment all the time. Like I legitimately had 1,000 pounds in my Honda Element, which I'm pretty sure was not safe at the time, but I had a lot of that stuff in there because I wanted to provide the best product that I know that I could provide my clients based on my experience.
A gym on wheels.
Exactly. It's like a carpenter, man. The more tools you have, the more, or, you know, a contractor or anything, the more tools you have, the more stuff you're going to be able to do and utilize, and the diversity with that. But yeah, like, so I would work out a lot, but then once I think we got a physical space is when I really think the ownership, the dedication really kind of turned it up a notch. Once you start having overhead, once you start seeing your vision kind of come together, I think that really kind of your motivation, it just takes it to another. That's like going from the minor leagues to the pros. Like you got a space now, you have, you know, potentially employees now that you have to take care of. You have to do the marketing. You got to do the social media. You got to do we got to put the flooring in. We have to put the turf in. We got to put up all the squat racks. We got to do, bring in all the equipment and then develop the program. You know, it took us an entire year essentially to create the program that we have now, just testing and running and like, you know, this timing worked and this timing didn't work. And so I think after about a year, we're at a position now where everything we're lock steady and just ready to go. And, you know, obviously I'm always trying to get better. I'm never satisfied with anything that I ever do. It's like the perfectionist in me, but for the most part, like I work out more now, but that first year was a little tough with just a lot of, but I knew what I was getting myself into. I knew the consequences and the sacrifices you have to make. And you just got to kind of, you know, get it in at that point, you know, just kind of figuring it out. Yeah.
Did you have to come up with, different ways of kind of getting your exercise in or something while you're developing your business and ways to fit it in? And
I think like the mentality, and, you know, some people struggle with this, is realizing that you just need to do it just to feel good. You know, I knew during the first year of opening the business that I was not going to reach any type of like maximum goal that I had physically. I knew I wasn't going to, you know, hit PRs in my deadlifts and squats and all that stuff. And not to say that I'm really interested in doing those things anymore. I'm more like strictly about health and feeling good. But I knew that the environment that I was placing myself into wasn't going to harbor to that kind of thing. So for me, it was like getting outside every day, trying to go for walks. Okay. So yeah, like just, you know, trying to take care of your body from the standpoint of consistency. And, you know, I used to be one of the coaches, and you evolve as a coach where, you know, you need to squat, you need to bench, you need to deadlift, like you need to lift heavy ass weights all the time. Yeah. And I still do believe some of that, but I think as I've gotten older and as I've realized that, you know, health first and sustainability, it's really just about movement. Like humans are designed to move. Like you have muscles for a reason, you know, you have bones for a reason, you can articulate and walk and crawl and do all these different things for a reason. And I know that I would say movement is really the key to getting that, like getting into that a proper mental state. And just when you're not gonna be able to make the gym all the time, you're not gonna be able to do all those things. So why not just go for a long walk, or go for a hike, or get some vitamin D outside? And, you know, even if you have a couple kettlebells at home, you can just do some exercises that then are just health based. So when you're in that crunch period of time, just moving in general is really the key.
Yeah, that was actually something I had thought about before we met today, was value of intensity of a workout. Like, is a more intense workout going to give me better, you know, a better mental state than if I, you know, if I go down and ride the bike for 20 minutes, or if I go do, you know, like you said,
just remember, consistency will always trump intensity.
Okay.
Always. So, anything you do, you want to be able to do it consistently, whether it's nutrition, workout, habits. Like you have to create something, or you have to create a platform in which you can do that consistently. Right. There's times you want to challenge yourself and do something new and a little bit more intensity, but the more consistent you are, the more success you're going to have. So, as a person that you just want to figure out, can I do this 5 times a week? Totally. My schedule fits. It's the right time. It makes me feel good. It doesn't run me down. Doesn't hurt anything else in my, my life. So I think consistency is the key. That's the word you're looking for, is consistency with that. Yeah.
Interesting. So the person who's going to the gym, making it once a week, killing themselves, is probably not much better off than the person who's going every day for half the time. And just doing it.
Because if you look at it from the standpoint of, you're accruing that interest over time, and over a long period of time, you've gotten more training sessions in than, say, I went 3 times a week and I went really hard and high intensity, which is nothing wrong with that style of training. You can do that. There has a benefit to that. Okay. But I think for the most part, you're better off saying, hey, they call it the effective minimum dose. Right? So you want to exercise to obtain the effective minimum dose. So I challenge myself, but at the same time, I could go tomorrow if I wanted to. I could, go lift weights again, or I could go for another run, right? So you're trying to find that effective minimum dose all the time. That's why, maybe I've mentioned this to you when you've come in, is, you want to feel like an 8 out of 10. The next day, you want to feel like I did something, but I'm not like dying, and I think that gets lost a little bit, the muscle soreness game that I think a lot of people think. They think they need to feel crushed, right? Yeah, but it's not necessarily the case.
That's kind of, I try to get down and ride the bike at least once a day, every day. And I go pretty hard on it. But sometimes I'm like, man, I miss just having the upper body soreness and the pain. But then on the converse side of that, you could see where that might deter someone from going in the next day, from keeping their, getting that consistency. So I guess it's just about your goal. What is your goal?
Exactly.
Right? And how...
Because, I'm a big proponent of, if you're not assessing, you're guessing. You're guessing, right? So I believe in when new clients come in, or current members now, I believe in measuring everything, whether it's like strength, body fat percentage. We have an in-body scanner, so we can measure body fat percentage, and as well as muscle mass and all those types of things. And I believe in just measuring everything, so we can show you in real time what's happening in your body. My goal is not to judge you for what's good and bad. My goal is to acquire information and then present it to you, and we work as a team to then reach those goals that you want, right? Someone's goals may be way different. There's not one size fits all. There's some people that I recommend certain nutritional stuff to, and then there's some people where I'm like, hey man, like this is what you need to do. I would say the biggest example of that is, you got a lot of folks that are very, carbohydrates is like a big thing in nutrition, but like, is low carb good for you? Is higher carbohydrate bad for you? And I think it just depends. There's a saying in the strength and conditioning and personal training community, it depends. Everything, it really just depends on the individual basis of the person. So, but like what might work for you might not work for me, and what might work for somebody else might not work for you.
Do you find in your experience that providing information like that, real data, does that help keep people in the program and keep people showing up? Or
I think so. I think occasionally you have a symptom of analysis by paralysis. Or paralysis by analysis, sorry. Yeah, occasionally you do get that with some clients. I think they get too fixated on the number. They think the numbers define you, but in reality, they're just showing you where you currently stand and then where we want to go. You're never going to be a finished product in your head, ever. It's like, for those types of people that are really into fitness and like those type, competitive mindset, you're never going to be satisfied. And I think there's a good reason to think that way. But I know what you're saying. Like I do like showing people like, hey, you're getting better on your movement. Your weight is either stabilizing or going down. Your body fat percentage is going down. And your muscle mass is going up.
What kind of things do you tell people when the numbers don't say what
that don't say they want
them to. Like, how do you?
What I try to do is I tell them, because a lot of times they can be very deflated, and it's natural. You're working hard. I kind of give them the analogy that I used with you earlier today when we were speaking before this. There's a book I'm reading called Atomic Habits by James Clear, and he talks about getting better 1% each day and controlling what you can control, and compounding that interest over a long period of time. That's your success. Those are your results. Falling in love with the process as opposed to the goal itself, right? Your goal is only going to be as good as the systems behind it to help reach that goal, right? So for example, he mentions that if you take an ice cube and put it melts at, begins to melt at 32 degrees. And so if you imagine that ice cube sitting in a room, and that room increases temperature by 1 degree each week, right? You're still, say you start at 25 degrees, you're still not going to see that progress till after 6 weeks, but you're still making progress. You're just not seeing it visually, right? And that's, I would say, about the 6-week mark is where really people start to take the turn, depending on their consistency and like their lifestyle and if they're doing all the right things, right?
Yeah.
And so as a coach, my goal is to help them through that process. Like, we work as a team hand in hand. So when people are discouraged like that, I just tell them like, hey, this is just another data point. We just need to figure out what's happening, right? So we need to, either it's a nutritional thing, whether it's a stress related thing, or just consistency with training. We then take a look at those.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I could see that kind of becoming
totally
where exercise has the inverse effect.
Yeah.
Kind of, damn it.
Yeah. I mean, it depends on the person. I mean, some people are very numbers driven. They're like, I want to know how strong I am. I want to know what my body fat percentage is. Some people are like, hey man, measure me every 2 months. Like, it's just for like, health reasons. Right. So like, I just want to make sure I'm like not getting worse. Right.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Some people have that mindset. Yeah. And as a coach, that's really what you're looking. I would say that one of the hardest things in coaching, especially in fitness, is, and you only learn this with experience, is juggling the different client profiles. Yeah. Right. You're going to get people that you don't got to tell them anything. They'll come in. Yes, sir. Come in 5 minutes early, foam rolling. Cool. Yeah. Diet plan. Sweet. Awesome. Like, they're just on it.
They're doing the work.
They're doing outside. The work. Yeah. Outside. You're going for walks, reading, like, sleeping well, doing all those things.
Reading about exercise.
Exactly.
They're
into it. They're into it. Then on the other end of the spectrum, people that need a lot of motivation. They need a lot of inspiration. So like, as a coach, I have to kind of switch my dialogue to those two different client profiles. I can get on someone's ass, for sometimes, and then the other person I might have to cater to their sensitivity a little bit.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that, because making change is really hard. Creating those healthy habits and putting yourself out there, and you're like, man, this, most of the time they're thinking in their head, this is going to take forever. And the goal is to create an environment that helps kind of dispel that negative thinking, and that anxiety, so.
Maybe we could spend some time talking about, food as fuel. I know that's a big thing that you believe in, is putting the right food into your body to get the results you want in your exercise, and also, in terms of mental health and, how you're treating yourself.
Absolutely.
So what was it that you said? The gut is your second
brain?
Gut
is second brain in the body. Gut health it's a big buzzword now. It's a lot of media has been written about, a lot of research is being done. Your gut, believe it or not, produces a ton of serotonin in your body. Yes. So that's why when you eat a meal, you're like, Thanksgiving dinner, you feel amazing afterwards, because you release a lot of serotonin from the gut, or from the gut transmitters, or, how it's communicating with your gut.
Yeah.
I think when people make the jump from viewing food as a look good or look bad, and start viewing it as a feel good or feel bad situation, that's when I think they make progress with the mental clarity game and all that kind of stuff, right? So that's how in my experience, I viewed it, is we did our 30-day challenge, right?
Yeah, let's get
yeah,
into
I was
that.
this kind of goes into that. But last year we did a 10-week challenge, which we
Okay.
thought was a little long. So and with challenges, you're always revising. You're always looking at what you guys did well, what people liked, what needs to change. And one of the things this year I want to do is make it shorter, and I also wanted to focus on lifestyle. Like I think the gym stuff, the training, that's the easy part. That's really just showing up. For a lot of folks, it's just showing up. And it's the outside of the gym that's the hard transformative part. And this year we made a really big effort on focusing on sleep, focusing on nutrient dense food. Giving people a lot of information about, hey, this is what belongs in your body. This is what it provides you. And with nutrition, it's kind of one of those things that it takes experience to figure out what works for you. Some people eat ketogenic diet, some people eat low carb. To be honest with you, it doesn't matter unless if you're not consistent with it. Like, and again, it goes back to consistency, right? So that was like the big thing was, doing these lifestyle steps and having people cook their food at home. We have an app that we were using that you could see. It wasn't on Facebook, but we had an app that you could see everybody's food posts, right? And they would get points for it and stuff like that. So there's a social accountability aspect to that. And, we would, one of the tasks was walking every day, 20-minute walk every day. Once a day.
Cool.
Yeah. Or you could divide it into 2 10-minute walks, whatever.
That's a nice little thing to do on your lunch break.
Yeah, exactly.
Right there, just get out.
And at the end of the challenge, I kind of was talking to everybody. We had our after party up at Cutwater, which was great. And I was talking to folks. I'm like, hey, what did you guys think this year? Is there something maybe we should change next year? And I think they really liked the fact of the lifestyle focus. And I think it made a huge difference. I think it was, people were more energized. They felt great. They said, and that was the biggest review. I think people were like, I just feel good. Like I want to continue to do this. Mm-hmm. I don't feel run down. I don't feel like I've been restricting or the restrictive dieting really doesn't work long term. It's just finding something that makes me feel good. I operate well on this. Mm-hmm. For example, I pretty much eat a fairly low carbohydrate diet, but I eat carbohydrates around my workouts, right? Because I need to fuel my muscle glycogen in the body and all that kind of stuff. But some people do really well on a high carbohydrate diet. I've seen athletes do that, and they are lean and strong and fast, and it just depends on that person. But yeah, nutrition for the most part can have a huge effect on the way you feel, and that's just when people realize that, that's when I think everything else comes full circle.
You mentioned nutrient dense. Mm-hmm. Foods. Mm-hmm. Does that mean like broccolis?
Yeah.
And super greens like that?
So I just finished my precision nutrition certification. So now I'm like actually certified to talk about or to recommend certain nutritional guidelines. I think it's I know that's a very it's a very gray area in the fitness industry, and certain states don't allow folks to talk about nutrition unless you're a registered dietitian.
Really?
Yes.
What do you mean talk publicly?
So no, like not talk publicly, but prescribe food. Okay. So for example, I couldn't be like, Eric, you need to eat this many carbohydrates. Okay. You need to eat this. So what, as a coach, and there's a lot of really good nutritional certification resources out there. What we do and Precision Nutrition does is they focus on sustainability, and they focus on very balanced. They don't pick sides. They're not dogmatic about, we're the keto people or we're the paleo people. They're not trying to make money on stuff like that. They essentially look at the facts. They have over 100,000 clients that they've used in their program, and they take that data as well. So they take that data, they have real-time data, and they have scientific evidence that they use to determine, hey, what works long-term? Right? Like what diet, I don't even like the word diet, like what nutritional profile works best. And everybody's different, right? So I think nutrient density, and that's one of the things they talk about is nutrient density. Finding foods that actually provide your body nutrients. Mm-hmm. And in this modernized world, we live in a world that a lot of those nutrients have been taken out. And we live in a convenience culture. And it's like, I want to eat Uber Eats, and I want to do, especially in San Diego, I always make this joke where, I'm from the East Coast, and I always say the Midwest and the East Coast just know how to eat like shit. But in San Diego, people just think they're eating healthy, but they're still eating like shit. You know what I mean? Sure. Like gluten-free bagels and like all that kind of stuff.
Like a smoothie loaded with sugar.
Exactly. So, and it's obviously just a joke, but just focusing on nutrient density is first step.
Yeah.
So looking at your food and what is it providing me, asking yourself that question. And with Google, you can look up anything about any type of different food and what it does to your body.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
What are some that you recommend?
Interesting. Well, I recommend, and we can cover all the macronutrients if you want. So you have fats, carbs, protein, stuff like that. But we'll just kind of shoot through this quickly. I recommend. I think most of the people that I've seen and have, we're talking about like the, early 30s to early 40s, like the people like, post-college professional trying to be in shape, want to look good on the beach, whatever. I've had a lot of good results with people doing more of a lower carbohydrate, diet with a lot of vegetables and fruit and lean proteins, right? I would say that's what a majority of people follow. Yeah. There's some variances here. Some people do intermittent fasting and all those things, but for the most part, you gotta know what food is and what it does for you and how you feel. Like taking note. Like I feel great today. I feel energetic. I feel good for the workout. Whatever. So. Some of the foods I really like, broccoli, cauliflower are some of my favorites. They're known to be really good for my hormonal response for men and women. Thing about that stuff is, though, you got to cut. I'm a big proponent of cooking vegetables. Yeah. I think you should soften them so it doesn't mess up. Because if you eat a lot of it can have some digestive issues for some people. Okay. One of the things I think with nutrition you want to look at too is thinking of it from a good, better, best situation, profiling it that way. Okay. And I'll give you an example. Basically, solely on nutrients, right? And this can be a little bit controversial sometimes, but again, I look at things from the data and factual and what it includes. And if you look at protein, people are like, well, what should I be doing for protein? So I say, okay, well, let's look on that good, better, best scale. Good would be like a protein shake. You're like, I'm in a pinch. Just got done my workout. I'm in my car. It's fast. I need something quick, right? So I'm gonna do a protein shake. Sweet, awesome. I think a best situation would be like chicken, or turkey or something like that. You're still getting protein. You're getting some nutrients in there, but it's not the most nutrient dense form of protein. And I think on top of that is fish and red meat. And red meat could be game, it could be buffalo. It doesn't have to just be like your traditional like burger, like a cow. And then fish, because red meat has B vitamins, it has zinc, it has iron, it has creatine, it has all these things that your body needs, especially for training, right? Yeah. And then also fish has all your omega-3s, and those two things are a really good balance. And again, I know some people like really cut out red meat. I think when it's produced properly, it can be very beneficial to you. And the same thing goes with certain vegetables and carbohydrates for the most part. I like to stick to like rices and sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes are great for you, especially if you're a big time exerciser.
Really?
Yeah, sweet potatoes are awesome. Yeah.
That's good to know. I love frying potatoes.
Yeah, potatoes are really good for you. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So that's like a touch base, but like I said, everybody's different. Yeah. PrecisionNutrition.com is a great resource to use if anybody has any questions or looking for really good articles to read. John Berardi, who started that company, is like one of the best in the business, and they work with a lot of like professional sports teams, Apple, a lot of different big companies like Apple and Google and stuff like that. Cool. So yeah.
Was nutrition something that you were into also from the start of your experience as a trainer, or was that something you kind of started to realize?
It's a whole. I think from a coaching standpoint, it's a whole nother ball game. And I mean that in the way of, I think you got to master the training stuff first, and then the nutrition, because they both go hand in hand, right? Like the training stuff's great. But the nutrition stuff, I think, unlocks the key, unlocks the door. I think like training puts the key in the door, and I think nutrition unlocks the door, right, with the key. So if that makes sense. Yeah. It's one of the harder habit changing things. I think when it comes to human being, people are physically addicted to certain foods. and it's very hard to break that. So that's why I think it's interesting. I think that's one of the directions I want to go into, and I think it's going to be my next business is going to be a nutritional coaching business that kind of goes hand in hand with my training business.
Cool.
There's a lot of demand for that right now. And I think, and it's honestly, if you can help people do that, then I think it makes the results and overall well-being. Just, I mean, nutrition, you can only work out so many times a week. Nutrition's a 24/7 thing, you know? So
is that if people come to you and that have signed up for Locomotion and maybe they aren't getting the results that they want right away, is nutrition like the first thing?
9 out of 10 times. 9 out of 10 times, people who aren't getting the results they want it's based on nutrition. Training's huge. Like strength training is important. Sleep is very important. We can touch on that too.
Let's get into that.
So what we follow at Locomotion Athletics is I call it the SET principle, right? You got to do these 3 things first, and then we can discuss other methods that may be outside the box, right? It's kind of a systemic thing. There is no magic pill. I've tried it. I've tried it all. I've tried all the supplements. I've done all that stuff. There is no magic pill. It's consistency. But we want to think there's this magic thing, like there's this magic diet or there's this magic detox or it's not there. It just doesn't exist. It's literally sleeping, eating nutrient-dense food, and training. And it's those, or, training, I should say movement too. So training could be anything. It doesn't have to be like lifting weights, right? So sleeping is very important. And, you're starting to see the research now. You're starting to see a lot of these studies come out. You see the people on Joe Rogan's podcast and all the books and stuff that they're really coming around to the fact that sleep is a huge factor in the way you feel, not only for hormone regulation, taking your cortisol levels down, stabilizing your cortisol levels. When you have a lack of sleep, it throws your cortisol level way off. Your cortisol level rises or stays elevated for a long time. Yes.
The more stress
you have. Yeah. That's the way you feel that way. And so sleep helps regulate that. Even napping's been shown to lower cortisol levels.
Really?
That's great. Yeah. And increase insulin sensitivity, which is important. And pretty much, like, to sum it up, sleep balances your hormones, right? And if you don't sleep, your hormones tell your body to do a lot of different functions. And if you don't sleep, your body's being told all the wrong signals, right? And so a little tidbit is, like, when you wake up in the morning, your cortisol levels are at their peak, at their highest. Yes.
Interesting.
So when they're at their peak, right, and then eventually those cortisol levels start to drop.
When you wake up.
When you wake up, they're at their highest. You may not feel it that way, right?
Yeah.
You may feel, but usually that's at the peak for most people.
So you spend all night kind of building up,
ramping up, right? When you
your
sleep,
body just getting itself ready to wake up.
So you're going from a parasympathetic. So you have 2 nervous systems in your body, right? You have a sympathetic nervous system, your fight or flight, and then you have your parasympathetic nervous system, as they consider it rest and digest. So it kind of, your parasympathetic nervous system controls a lot of, like, your just normal bodily functions. Your fight or flight's like your adrenaline, like you're like go or stop, right? And so throughout the day, we are mostly in a sympathetic state, especially when we drink caffeine and we abuse, we don't sleep much, right? We're always in this elevated, right? Place of mind. But when you sleep, your parasympathetic nervous system takes over a majority of the brain function, right? And so that's why it's really important that parasympathetic nervous system turns on. We begin that recovery process, right? And then as you wake up, we start kicking back that sympathetic nervous system back on again, right? So it's like, like charging up the battery a little bit, right? And I know I love coffee. It's amazing, but I've done a lot of, like, testing on myself and all those things where I want to, when you wake up in the morning and the first thing you make, you just guzzle down a bunch of caffeine and you're like, I don't know if you ever driven to work early in the morning after your first cup of coffee, you're like ripping through your mind with thoughts, right?
For sure.
So, but yeah, it's just really, sleep is really important. Going on in that principle, eating nutrient-dense food. We touched on that earlier. Yeah. A lot goes into the hormone regulation thing. I know a lot of people that are vitamin D deficient. magnesium. These are like the two that are most people are so a nutrient deficiency, right, could be the cause of a lot of issues for people and they don't even know it.
Really? Like
mental health issues to everything. I mean, like your body is a system of physiology and complex habitual psychology, like habits, right? And so I always recommend a blood test to people. You know, if they really wanted to see what's underneath the hood, go get a blood test, see what you're deficient in. You know, most people are like, you know, coach, what supplement should I take? I'm like, well, what are you deficient in? Like, you don't know. Like, you shouldn't take supplements if you don't know that you're deficient in them, right? That's a good point. So, a lot of our food can provide us the nutrients that we need, but if anybody, you know, is out there and they're looking to know a little bit more about their health, like a blood test would be great. And you can go online. There's various places you can get a men or women's vitality test, and they can test your hormones and all that, and your cortisol levels. Yeah.
Going back to cortisol. Sure. So you have this buildup in your body in the morning when you wake up. Say somebody goes to the gym in the morning. So then they're burning off that cortisol that's been built up. The cortisol level. So if you're up, right, the cortisol is elevated. And you're going to go, most likely if you're going to go to the gym, say you're like a 6 a.m. person and you just, that's the only thing that fits in your schedule. You can use that to your benefit and just go and work out, and usually you're going to feel great afterwards. You can get the endorphin rush. You know, we at Locomotion Athletics, we got a 6 a.m. crew that's always the same people all the time. And that's what they look for. You're starting your day off well. You don't have to worry about work. You don't have emails. Nobody's yelling at you. You know, usually the significant other or whoever is sleeping. Like, you're just like, I love early mornings. Early mornings are my favorite time. But, so you can use that. You can harbor that to your advantage, right? You know, early in the morning. Is the presence of cortisol in your system is stress?
It is stress, and
or is it the process of making it?
It's you're always going to have cortisol in your body, right? It's like it's stress. It's a hormone. You're going to have it, but it's just how elevated is that, right? Usually, when your cortisol levels are highly elevated, it can bring your testosterone level down, right? And that can cause other issues.
Interesting.
Yeah. So cortisol and stress management is what I like to call it, right? Everybody has stress.
Yeah.
Like we live in this world that moves at light speed, you know, and we're just trying to catch up all the time. So it's more or less not, oh my God, my cortisol levels are elevated. It's just, okay, what can I do now? What can I do to help me alleviate some of this stress so I can kind of like relax and get back to homeostasis, and my workouts feel good and I'm sleeping well. And some of those things are, you know, limiting stimulants. You know, people, I think 250 to 300 milligrams of caffeine a day. That's like the max, I think, for most people, especially. And it also, you know, coffee can dehydrate you too, so you got to be careful with that. But 1 cup a day is not going to kill you. If you're getting into the 2 to 3 cups a day, you know, something's off, and you're going to start getting that adrenal fatigue.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. I smash
coffee's awesome. I know, dude. It's delicious. You know, that's one. Walking, you know, we touched on that too. Yeah. Walking is, and I just got it like into the whole walking is good for you world, which is crazy, but because it's literally just putting one foot in front of the other.
Yeah.
But it kind of dawned on me. I'm like, you're right. It makes sense. We're designed to move. We sit inside all day. We don't get any vitamin D, so we could be potentially vitamin D deficient. And getting outside and just getting air can really clear your head. I truly believe that. And I think every time you go for a walk, you always feel better afterwards. And you have so many options for podcasts and audiobooks and all this stuff that you can kind of entertain yourself while you do that. Is a really good thing to do daily. Every day, just going for a walk, whether it's 10 to 30 minutes, doesn't matter. And it's free. And it's free 99. Yeah, free. So, yeah.
I think that's something that, I definitely could use more of, is just getting outside, even to start my day. You know, I feel like that would really help. And I know it helps because I sometimes will walk and get a smoothie, or, you know, start the day with a juice. And you come back, and after walking 10, 12 blocks, you're like, all right, now I can sit
feel
here.
great, man. Yeah, your brain's going. Yeah. It's just it's music for your brain, to be honest with you. It's the adult version of crawling. You know, it's walking. You know, babies crawl all the time. It's the same thing, and it's good physically for you. It's awesome. Like, it's the insulin sensitivity thing, you know, the fact that you're kind of like allowing your body to get into alignment. You know, I know a lot of folks that got back issues, and I'm like, you start moving more. Movement is health. Like, physically for you, movement is crucial Crucial. But yeah, for the most part, like people, it's just the culture, man. It's just we work on computers, we sit at a desk. I mean, the big one now is tech neck. You ever heard of tech neck?
No.
So it's where your neck is shifting forward because you're looking at your smartphone so much or tablet or whatever. So you actually, what happens is your the axis of your head actually shifts forward and stays there and can cause a lot of neck disc issues and all that stuff. Yeah, if you talk to any high-end chiropractor,
from looking down at your phone.
Wow. Yeah. So it's technology, honestly. It's going from an industrial to
and we're still just figuring out the consequences.
Yeah, like even the blue light, from your phone or from your television has been known to decrease melatonin, which then helps you, or it doesn't help you fall asleep, right? Yeah. So that's why they wear like the blue lens goggle. They have like glasses that essentially block blue light. Some of your phones have settings on them that'll turn the blue light off. Night mode. Yeah. I think that's something to touch on too, as well, is we live in a world today where we are so bombarded with information. Mm-hmm. Your brain can't physically consume it all. Yeah. Like I have Facebook deleted off my phone now. I was like, this new thing I'm going to do. I did it after this weekend, especially after vacation. I just got back from Maui, and I was like, you know what? This is just, other than my business, I'm like, this is just noise. Yeah. And it's just noise that I'm like addicted to, and it just it's starting to become a problem, giving me anxiety and like all those things for stuff that it doesn't really have any like a dramatic effect on my life. So I took it off my phone. I have it on my computer just when I'm doing business stuff like that. But it's really strange that we are so connected but yet so alone. Yeah, it's really like, it was nice to kind of like go to Hawaii and like spend time with my brother and his wife, my buddy Jay, my girlfriend Rachel, like, and not have to worry about like, oh man, I have to answer this person's email. It's so much, and I think we need to take a breath every once in a while and just realize just be in the moment and be present and stuff. Yeah,
I talked recently with this guy Michael Lavery in my last podcast actually, and that's one of the things he talks about is he mentioned in the podcast that if you look at people who are in the process of texting, they exhibit signs of anxiety and depression.
Totally.
Or like are on social media.
Totally.
And I've experienced that too, where it's like you're looking at your phone and deleting texts and overthinking and trying to overcome the fact that you can't see how the person is saying what they're saying, or you don't want to be misunderstood or whatever, and it can have a serious effect on how you think.
I would say like social media in this day and age from a fitness standpoint. Yeah. So I've been doing this for 11 years. This is the worst I've seen, body dysmorphic issues that I've ever seen in my life. Yeah. And I'm a victim of that too. I am. Like, I think anybody in today's day and age that is big into fitness and it's like one of their goals is I want to have a nice body or whatever, have some sort of like body dysmorphic thing after a long period of time of training, right? You're like addicted to it. You're like, I want to get bigger, but I'm not big enough. Maybe I should be smaller. Tighten this area up, right? So it's not like, it doesn't discriminate certain people. But I think with social media and the prevalence of it is, back in the day, you would read like, Men's Health, and you're like, what's Jennifer Aniston's, workout, right? And you're like, oh, that's Jennifer Aniston or whoever was celebrity. Like, that's just them. They got trainers. They got all this stuff. But now you're comparing yourself to your peers.
Right.
And so you're like, oh, well, Susan works out 3 or 4 times a week, and look at her. I work out 3 or 4 times a week. I should look like Susan, right? Or I should look like this person, when it's a lot more complicated than that, right? Everybody is very individual. So I think social media has started pinning us subconsciously against ourselves or against our peers, right? And I see that a lot in the fitness industry, especially on Instagram and stuff. We call it Insta famous. Yeah. Or the Instagram booty chicks and all that stuff. Like, I get it, but I read books, man. Like, I try to get my information from people who've been doing it for a long time, and I try to spread that wealth onto other people on realistic standards, So,
and it's kind of, not kind of, it definitely is a double-edged sword, because you can use social media to inspire people to get to the gym, and it's like,
absolutely,
you see people looking super fit, and you're like, you know what, you see someone post
Get
like, a
motivated.
before, like
Yeah.
here's me 3 years ago,
Yeah.
here's me today, and it's like, dude, I look
Yeah.
like you used to look like, and I'm gonna, now I'm gonna go try to get that. But
Sure.
then you have the other side where it's a constant comparison.
Yeah, it's a constant comparison. I think it's something that goes away after a while. Like if you go into the right community, you go into the right gym, meet the right people, you don't feel that. But I think, yeah, man, it's a product of the social media in general and just like our connectiveness. I don't think it's necessarily like, you're a bad person because you have symptoms of body dysmorphia. I think it's just a product of the world we live in,
For sure.
And I really I want to help people that suffer from stuff like that. Like that's one of my big things. No, it's very hard for somebody to admit that, but I think like I try to tell them like, hey, let's look at this data. Let's look at these things. Like we can change certain things in here. And I try to keep them on the path of progress, 1% each day.
Yeah.
Like this is your identity. This is your lifestyle now, right? This is not just like, if you achieve this, it's going to open up all these other things for me. It's like, no, we they talk about in that Atomic Habits book is if you want to change a real habit, you want to identify with the change in that habit, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're like, I want to be on a fitness routine, well, you want to then start acting like somebody on a fitness routine, and you identify as a fitness person, right? And then over time, it just doesn't even, like the goals don't even matter. I'm in love with the process. I'm in love with working out. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So, yeah. But yeah, it's like, it is what it is, and we just have to adapt, as a human species, we gotta adapt to this kind of stuff. So
I think that what's beneficial with the Locomotion program and that particular issue is this is totally just like my own thoughts, my own conjecture, but someone who's looking at Instagram and looking to compare themselves to other people is maybe a little bit lonely. So then having a workout community like Locomotion where it's, you go there and it's not about who's lifting more weights that day. Everyone's laughing, having fun.
Absolutely.
That might help a little bit with that kind of loneliness that leads to comparisons and leads to feeling.
The community aspect of fitness is it's undeniable. It's one of it's actually my main selling point, or I don't want to say selling point, but something that I work on. A majority of my work is on the community, doing, social events, making sure I do a ton of correspondence every single day. I text people all the time. How are you doing? How's the body feeling? Is there anything I can do for you? Is there anything my other coach can do for you? But that community and building is what people are like, I don't want to leave here, dude. Like these are all my friends are. These are all the people that make me feel good. I look forward to coming. It's like the best part of my day. And that's ultimately my goal, is to make this environment the best part of your day. And, not every day is going to be a great training session. Some days you're tired. Some days, you're, you could lift the world. But I think having that consistent environment and that consistent community makes it all worth it, regardless of whatever your workout is that day.
Right.
And it can have a really profound impact. My dad sends me a lot of stuff. My dad's 70 years old, big into fitness, and he, him and I were talking, and he read this article in New York Times, and they talked about how gyms have replaced churches for our generation, or for the more young generation, where it's people meet there, they congregate there. Like it's not like a party, but everybody's working to get better. It's crazy.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's more of like a religious thing.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at CrossFit and like all those other, Pilates and like yoga. There's a kind of like a religious element to that kind of stuff.
Sure.
So
a certain level of belief and commitment of oneself.
Absolutely.
To the idea.
Yeah, discipline stuff. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So what recommendation, I guess, would you have for someone who is on the fence of just
starting,
just committing to a program? And
so I would say, first step for someone is, don't be afraid to reach out. And don't be afraid to ask questions. And, I always say your mind goes where the body goes, and your body goes where the mind goes, right? So if you have a pretty unhealthy body, most likely you're gonna have a pretty unhealthy mind, right? And same thing, vice versa. A pretty unhealthy mind, you're gonna have an unhealthy body too. So the goal is to try to get those two things in sync, right? I think one of the best things you could do is reach out to a friend, be like, hey, I need to get in shape. Like, would you want to do this with me? Like, you know, I know whether it's somebody that has exercise experience or whatever, it doesn't even have to be my gym. It could be anything. Just like, I think an accountability partner is huge. I think it's really important and helps out a lot. That's why the challenges are all fun because everybody's doing the same thing and all that stuff. So the accountability element.
And then it turns into a fun comparison.
And then it comes to a fun comparison. You're like, hey, you know, fun competition and all that stuff. It's great.
Yeah.
So I think that would be a good first step. Understanding that there are a lot of coaches out there that literally their passion is to help other people. Like, they're here to help you, you know, and that's one of my, you know, my passions is literally just, let's create your best self, whatever that is. Like, it could be someone that's jacked out of their minds, or it could be somebody who's like, hey, I like to be flexible. It's come in and do workouts twice a week and I feel great. It's like, it doesn't matter. It's just finding your best self and what that could be and how you envision that in your head and how this can benefit you. I would say that, and, you know, just reaching out and, like, you know, trying to get your nutrition in line, I think is really big. It's a big issue for a lot of folks. I think going into more minute detail about that, I think the eating out is really what crushes people. I think that people don't realize how much oil, how many like vegetable oils and stuff that are put in, you know, like food that's in restaurants and Uber Eats and all that stuff. I think, especially in San Diego, people eat out a lot, and it's hindering their health. And so I think one step they could do is just start cooking at home and just buying your own food and you know, getting into the process of cooking food and feeling food in your hands and cutting and heating up the pan and putting on the oil and all that stuff. I think there's very like a ritualistic, you know, something about that makes you happy, where you're like, I know exactly what I'm eating. I know it's good for me. I know it tastes good, you know. Yeah. So I think just like finding an accountability partner, reaching out and asking questions. There's a lot of really good qualified coaches in San Diego, a lot of great places to work out. And then just, you know, diving into a little bit about the food you eat and researching and trying new things and seeing what, you know, works best for you.
All right. Thank you, James, for coming on this episode of the EW podcast. And thank you to the listener for sticking it through. If you'd like to connect with James or learn more about Locomotion Athletics, I would encourage you to go to locomotionathletics.com. You can also visit theewpodcast.com and find the blog post with this episode, and I will be putting links to James online in that post. Once again, thank you for tuning in.